This week, in the Spooky Coop, episode 39, we discuss the life and crimes of Cleo Joel Green III, followed by a discussion of the language of Bigfoot. Hi everyone, I'm Paul.
And I'm Michelle.
And you're in
The Spooky Coop.
Welcome to the Spooky Coop. Hope you're not chicken. Hello, Michelle.
Hey, Paul.
How's it going?
Going good. How about you?
Doing fantastic, thanks. Hey there, spooky friends. Welcome back to the Spooky Coop. This is the podcast where we dive headfirst into the strange, scary, and straight-up bizarre, and today, a little bit of true crime. I'm Paul.
And I'm Michelle, and buckle up, because today's episode is going to be a pretty wild ride. We have two very different, but equally chilling stories.
That's right. First up, we're diving into a lesser-known true crime story, the life and crimes of Cleo Joel Green III.
Not the second.
Or the first. Say that 3 times fast.
Cleo Joel Green, forget it. I lose.
You left out the third.
Yeah.
Two meanings. And then we're going to shift gears and we're going to travel into the woods to explore something a little more mysterious. The language of Sasquatch.
It's like the language of love for cryptids.
That's right. Bigfoot vocalizations, with a special focus on the infamous Sierra sounds.
Oh, and you have copies for everyone to hear?
Yes, we do. We have actual sounds that we're going to play, and then afterwards, when I'm editing, I'm going to put in more clear sounds for people so they can go back and play them over and over.
Awesome. And we have, so that means we have something on true crimes and on cryptids.
That's right.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with our true crimes. The life and crimes of Cleo Joel Green III. You might not even have heard of him, even though he's a serial killer. Most people have never even heard of him.
Right. Well, that's probably because he hails back to 1957.
No, there are serial killers that go even further back than that people know.
You are quite right. Back in the 1800s?
Yeah, there's a lot of serial killers out there that never really got a lot of attention because either they weren't around a long time, or they just didn't make it into the press. Maybe they were ugly. Who knows?
They couldn't tie all the murders together to one person.
Yeah, or, something like that. But in this case, they really did tie everyone together.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So Cleo Joel Green III, CJG. Mr. Green isn't a household name like some serial killers, but his crimes are no less horrifying.
Yeah, and they weren't terribly long ago compared.
No, in comparison to some, for sure. He was born on September 7th, 1957 in Jefferson County, Kentucky. And by 1983, he was unemployed, living with his mother, and grappling with schizophrenia.
That's sort of like most programmers.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. My son's a programmer, and he doesn't live with me.
I don't know. Sometimes we've wondered about it. No, I won't say that.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He is.
He's an awesome son.
Yeah, and he doesn't live with us.
And he brought us our first grandchild. So that's like 5 huge, big gold stars for him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, not our son, but Cleo's mental health struggles were severe. At the time of his arrest, he believed he was being pursued by a large bird and floating demons.
And the floating demons were not being held up by the large bird.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I don't know. The funny part is that you wonder sometimes if people, I don't know, maybe he did really believe it. But anyway, his violent spree started in July 3rd to be precise, in 1983. And his first attack, he broke into an elderly woman, 76-year-old May York's apartment over at Clarksdale Housing Complex. And then he brutally assaulted her really horribly with a hatchet. He actually cut her head off.
Oh, God, that's gross.
Isn't that like the worst you could think of? He cut her head off, and her son discovered her in the morning.
Just over 2 weeks later, on July 19th, Green targeted 73-year-old Elmira Watson, and after breaking into her home, he stole her radio and stabbed her 22 times in the neck with a pair of scissors.
That's terrible. I mean, for her, you think he'd at least go for her Walkman. That's what they had.
The
back
remarkable thing about this is that after grabbing the radio, stabbing her 22 times, she survived the vicious attack.
Maybe they were
unbelievable.
those round kid scissors. I mean, thank God the woman survived, but incredible.
It's hard to believe that she survived. It is a miracle. You know?
It is. Did you know that not long, like less than a month later, right, in August 13th, he entered the apartment of a 69-year-old woman named, what was it, Rosetta Smith?
Rosetta M. Smith.
Rosetta Smith, yeah. And she was a double amputee, okay? Mm-hmm. She was on kidney dialysis, and this broad had guts, okay? I say broad had guts because she was like...
She was a lady with chutzpah, yeah?
Yes, she was.
A lot of chutzpah.
He attempted to assault and rape her. Now, this woman's a double amputee on kidney dialysis machines, and she fought back against him so fiercely that she got the better of him. She managed to grab him by the cojones. She got him in a nutcracker grab, and she held on so tight and for so long, the guy lost consciousness.
Gee, I wonder why that would happen.
Yeah, but not just he lost consciousness, but he lost consciousness long enough for this woman who was a double amputee to get next door and get help from her neighbors.
Oh my God.
And he was still passed out when the police came. I mean, don't mess with this woman.
Yeah, really.
I mean, and that's how he was caught.
Bully to her is what I say. Congratulations. Yeah. That's quite the testament to what a person can do.
Yeah. Either that or he had the most sensitive crotch in the world. I mean, she probably grabbed them and twisted them and tied them in a knot.
I don't think I can talk after that. My knees are locked so tight, dear. Did he get arrested? He must have gotten arrested.
Yeah, and they put him on a $100,000 bond, which means that he had to come up with $10,000. Obviously, he didn't come up with it because he went right to jail.
Right. So following his arrest, he was declared incompetent to stand trial on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah, he was probably still passed out.
Probably. Couldn't articulate properly from the new high pitch in his voice. And it wasn't until 1989 that his condition stabilized sufficiently for
him to stand up.
For him to stand up and for the legal proceedings to continue. On November 20th of that year, Green pleaded guilty to the murder of Ina May York and the this is horrible, and we're sitting here laughing about this. And the attacks on Elmira Watson and Rosetta M. Smith.
I did it.
He was sentenced. He was sentenced to 40 years of. Now,
woman's penitentiary.
Yeah. But what is really amazing, and this is stupefying to me, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison, and he avoided the death penalty. But with time served,
they figured in his condition, it was.
Doesn't matter. With time served, he became eligible for parole as early as 1991.
Wow.
After killing someone and attacking all these people, he was eligible for parole at that point.
Incredible.
Now, without being too condemnatory, if there is such a word, I mean, he was mentally ill. And
he was nuts.
He was nuts.
He was nuts.
He was nuts. But...
You're not getting my pun.
Yeah, forget my point. Okay, anyway, the records do not clearly indicate whether he was ever released, but he died on May 12th, 2006 in Louisville.
The Louisville Slugger.
Yeah. You leave me speechless. What can I tell you?
All right. Anyway, his case is really haunting. It's a reminder of how devastating a lot of people, they have these... I don't know what you call it, have had mental emotional breakdowns. I mean, this guy lived thinking that these fanciful creatures, demons and stuff were chasing him.
Not that they don't exist.
No, not that they don't exist, but he didn't get any help. And instead, he went on a spree. Apparently, his target were older women, and maybe because he saw them as helpless, who knows who he might have also hurt that never came forward or whatever, or they thought died of natural causes. But the thing is it shows like a lot of people who go on to cause huge problems in society are people who haven't gotten treated for their illnesses, for their mental illnesses and their problems like that. And it really underscores also the fact that there are people who are amazing survivors, people who you think are invalids or not able, that you call them handicapped, are actually handy-capable. Yeah. And you have to remember that.
That's well phrased. Very well phrased. So, now that we're done with that gruesome true crime tale.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Okay, let's switch gears. And we're going to go from true crime to cryptids. Michelle, have you ever heard of the Sierra Sounds?
Actually, I didn't until you said something.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't know what they were called. I heard people had recorded Bigfoot, and I heard the controversy around the recordings, but I didn't know what they were called.
Yeah, well, they were captured in the 1970s by
a guy who squeezed Bigfoot's nuts?
No. By a gentleman by the name of Ron.
Sorry.
This will make sense when we play some of the recordings by the gentleman named Ron Moorhead and Al Berry, who recorded these in a remote part of the Sierra Nevada mountains. These recordings were allegedly captured of Bigfoot vocalizations, a mix of howls, whoops, grunts, and even what sounds like a form of language. So these recordings are bone-chilling. I'm going to play them in a second here. The sounds are unlike anything you'd hear from a typical animal in the wild. Experts and skeptics alike have analyzed the audio, and while some dismiss them as a hoax, others believe it's genuine proof that Sasquatch might have a complex method of communication and linguistics.
Isn't that Scott Nelson guy a retired Navy cryptic linguist or something?
Yep, he's in here.
Yeah, and he studies recordings, and Nelson claims that the sounds display a pattern that suggests language and structure, something like beyond random animal noises.
Right, and what's even more fascinating is that these types of vocalizations have been reported all over North America. Eyewitnesses describe hearing long, distant whoops, tree knocks, and guttural growls deep in the forest. Now I'm going to stop right there, and I want to play these for our audience. I am going to put
better copies
following this in the podcast so that you can go back and hear them better.
So you can cut and play the better
because we're
ones.
so high tech, the only way we could figure out how to do this while we're talking on our podcast here is to play them from my cell phone. So I'm going to play the first one. And here we go.
Right there, just see movement right through there.
Okay, and what you're hearing at the end of that there is the recorders. One of them yells out, I believe it's something like bonjour, bonsoir. Okay, and these are the sounds of the whoops.
Okay, so those are the recordings at this point, you just heard recordings that Paul spliced in because we tried to put them in with his iPhone and we didn't hear it very well. So we didn't want to make you suffer through it like we just did. Anyway, some believe that Bigfoot uses these sounds not just to communicate with others, but to warn off humans and signal their presence. I would like to give you my opinion on them, but we'll wait till after the segment and the wrap-up.
Okay, so Bigfoot speaking its own secret language. Is it really happening? We may not have all the answers, but the Sierra sounds and countless eyewitness accounts suggest that there's something or someone making noises in the woods.
So
Now,
there you have it.
yeah, I think I'd like to just go on a tangent here for a bit.
Yep.
About the whoops. Now, I think, and you and I, from our research with alien experiencers and our own experiences, we have, how to phrase it, we have learned that the whoops they use to let each other know where they are as they're walking through the woods. They will separate and walk through the woods, and they will whoop to each other to know where they are. And now,
that's what we were told.
In one of the recordings there, you heard those loud bangs of sticks
yep.
on tree trunks. Another means of them communicating over a distance in the woods. Also, experiences have reported, and we have also experienced ourselves, they indeed have a very complex language, and their voices range from being very, very deep because of their size and height and the size of their vocal cords, but they also run to a range of like a mid-range type of sound. I don't know if that's a female voice or what, but I have heard that on shipboard. A range of watching a group of them at a table. And experiencers' view of them from the ones we have talked to and from what we have seen ourselves, they have human faces with a very high hairline generally right across the top of their skull. But regular looking skin, they look almost human in their faces. But then, there's all this hair issue, right?
I have a totally different idea on this. Okay?
Fire away.
Fire away. All right. The whooping aside, the tree banging aside, the other stuff in the middle, the speaking and everything, I don't know that I'm buying it. Okay? Because there's a couple of phrases in there that are definitely English.
Oh, so you think that they might be faking it?
I think that some of that is faking it, because if you listen back to it, I think at one point he says you can hear something like that's the number one, or that's the first one, or I'm first, or
that's
something.
That's them recording it at their campsite.
Then what are they recording? Because other than that, you only hear words.
Yeah, you hear the words in the distance.
What words in the distance?
Whatever they are, articulated.
I don't hear anything in the distance.
You have to listen closely. And this is actually pretty good, because now we're going to beg the audience to go in and listen closely. In the second recording, towards the very end, you'll hear one of the people from the campsite where they're recording say something.
In French.
I think so.
Or in some other language, not English. But there are several phrases that are in English that are part of that gibberish in there, and all of a sudden in the gibberish that you can't hear, someone says something that's English. It's almost like listening to
them at the end.
But not in the end, in the middle.
Oh.
In the middle.
You heard something in English.
Yes, it's almost like listening to a ghost box, where you'd have all of this gibberish coming out. Save me, I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds just like you'd hear from a ghost box.
Well,
so you wonder if they're not in a haunted part of the woods, and they're recording some sort of spirit that's in there, some sort of haunted woods, and they're actually listening to some sort of spirit, not a Bigfoot.
I'm not going to say that that's not a possibility. I'll leave that open. But I'm very curious about the nature and what this sounds like to me, my subjective hearing on.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's very subjective, because there was no visual sighting, and even the whoop 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 could be where were they? Because it could be, depending on where they were, a monkey. Because there are monkeys that make that type of sound.
This is the Sierra Mountains in America.
Oh, okay.
In the U.S., yeah.
Remember when they had
very unlikely you've got organized monkeys running through the Sierra Mountains.
Do you remember when we were walking up Pac Monadnock, and we heard a lion roaring?
Yes, I remember that. That was
we were
terrifying.
like, oh my God,
Yeah.
And it turns out there's a zoo a few miles.
There was a zoo back then. This is a mountain in New Hampshire, folks, in southern New Hampshire. And just to the south of it is at a place called Greenville. And there was a zoo there that
rescued big cats.
That rescued big cats. And they had
didn't know about
about 20 to 30 lions there.
Yeah. And we heard all these lions roaring.
And when you're hiking up a mountain and you
In
hear
the
this
dark.
in the dark, I got to tell you that
Or coming down in the dark.
you know our journey down the road to the foot of the mountain, the mountain road, was a lot quicker than it had ever been before that night.
Yeah. It sounded like, because of the cold air that night, it sounded like there were lions all around us. And then there was a brush in the woods, and we thought, oh my God.
They're
Oh
there.
no. And it turned out to be a porcupine. Yeah. Which is dangerous enough if you scare a porcupine in the middle.
You know, we haven't even touched on where Bigfoot might come from.
No, we haven't.
We have discussed it in the past about them coming across from other places, from across an
other
edge,
dimensions,
another dimension,
edges of other dimensions. Yeah.
you know, through an edge from another dimension that coexists with ours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have been told.
Right.
That's what's been explained to us. But, you know, who knows,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we leave it up to you.
Or a Bigfoot
Dear
actually
listeners.
been living on the earth all the time. Mm-hmm. You
Yes.
know, living in. I mean, there are places we know of that people have never even stepped foot on, right here in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. There are areas that if you go up into the White Mountains, there are huge valleys where if you talk to the rangers, they'll tell you no one has ever stepped foot in that area. It's places where you cannot get into.
It's very steep, very hard to get into and to traverse. Yeah.
Yeah, and there could be things living in that valley that have never ever been found or seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're in that valley, you can't get out. If you're out of that valley, you can't get in.
Yeah, so creatures of any kind could live there for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might get tired of all the up and down. They might want to walk flat some on occasion. Maybe that's when the sightings occur, when they venture out of their little area.
Well, maybe there's flat areas in there.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, everyone? Are the Sierra Sounds a glimpse into Bigfoot's world? Or is it just a big elaborate hoax?
Oh, yeah, and question. Are the Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Sasquatch, are they all the same thing? Or are they cousins?
I have
are
wondered
they related?
about that. I have wondered about that.
Are they in the same cryptoid family, or are they the same? Is it like
because to be honest,
people?
anyone who we've talked to in the alien community, in the alien experiencer community, no one's reported
ever seeing a Yeti
an
on board?
an orange or yellow-haired Yeti. It's all it's anything but that color. So I wonder.
Yeah, no one's ever seen a white Bigfoot, like all shaggy white, like a Yeti. Yeah. And
albino version?
I don't. No. But I mean,
I know
Yeti,
what you mean. I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. So is it like? Are they different races? Like, are they different races of the same creature, like humans, or are they different subspecies of a root, like like
Neanderthals,
dogs and wolves and coyotes and foxes?
Yes. And do they communicate? Do they all communicate?
Everyone communicates
in some way or another.
I mean, even dogs can communicate with coyotes because they're in the subspecies. They somehow understand each other.
Mm-hmm. So, let us know your thoughts, folks.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think of the Sierra Sounds.
Yeah, and if you have
There's other recordings out there, too. You can search the internet. There's recordings from around the world of supposed Bigfoot.
Yeah, what is
Sasquatch.
the plural of Bigfoot? Big feets?
Bigfoots.
Bigfoots.
Sasquatch. Sasquatch in and of itself is plural and singular, so I don't know what...
Sasquai?
No. Oh, you are so funny.
There was I grew up in a town called Lowell in Massachusetts. They actually, in Drake, the town next door, made a movie called Sasquatch when I was a little kid.
I have seen that movie.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
You guys gotta look it up.
Go watch it.
Yeah.
What was the name of it?
Sasquatch.
Just called Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Filmed in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Lowell, Massachusetts. And it is hilarious. I was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something. And me and my friends all got on our little Stingray bikes with the big banana seats and the big, huge...
I had one of those.
Yeah, and the big,
yeah.
huge handlebars.
How do you
wow
remember
bars.
those names? I couldn't
Yeah.
even remember Stingray.
And we went out-
Mustang. I had a Mustang bike.
Yeah, and we ran out there. We followed the crew around that we thought they were so old. We're like, oh my God, these guys. They were probably 20 years old filming this thing. And we went out there and we watched them and we thought, oh my God, that thing is so scary. It was like a guy with a zipper up his back, dressed like a gorilla.
It is inarguably one of the worst movies ever made, and therefore a must-see.
Yeah, a must-see. It was absolutely amazing. Anyway, we probably should get going.
Everybody, we wish you a week of hope and wonder. Everybody have a wonderful week.
That's right.
We wish you a week of hope and wonder. Stay spooky. Until next time.
When we see you.
When we see you.
In the spooky.